As life expectancy rises globally, attention is increasingly turning toward the question not only of how long we live, but how well. Nutrition stands at the center of this inquiry, functioning as both a modifiable risk factor for disease and a determinant of biological aging. Among the world's longest-lived individuals, often referred to as long-lived individuals, LLIs, or members of blue zones, certain nutritional patterns consistently emerge. These patterns, while varying slightly by culture and region, converge around principles of moderation, diversity, and anti-inflammatory dietary composition. They provide a valuable blueprint for how food can support a 100-year life. One of the most striking features of diets in longevity hotspots is their plant-centric foundation. LLIs in places such as Okinawa, Japan, Sardinia, Italy, and Nicoya, Costa Rica, derive the majority of their daily calories from vegetables, legumes, fruits, whole grains, and tubers. These foods are not only rich in fiber, vitamins, and minerals, but also contain an abundance of phytochemicals, plant-derived compounds that exhibit antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and even epigenetic effects. In contrast to many Western diets that emphasize caloric density and refined ingredients, longevity diets emphasize nutrient density and metabolic balance. Legumes, in particular, are a universal staple in the diets of LLIs. Beans, lentils, and chickpeas offer complex carbohydrates with a low glycemic index, resistant starches that promote gut health, and high-quality plant-based protein. Their regular consumption is associated with lower cholesterol levels, improved insulin sensitivity, and reduced risk of age-related diseases such as cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes. Notably, legumes are often consumed in modest but consistent portions, highlighting the importance of both composition and quantity in longevity nutrition. Another common feature of long-lived populations is the moderate intake of total calories, often naturally achieved through smaller portion sizes, reduced snacking, and a cultural emphasis on stopping eating before full satiety. The Okinawan principle of hara hachi biyu, which encourages eating until 80% full, is one example of this practice. Caloric moderation supports longevity by reducing insulin signaling, lowering levels of IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor, and promoting cellular repair pathways such as autophagy. These mechanisms are known to delay the onset of age-related diseases and may reduce the pace of epigenetic aging. Fat intake in LLI diets is generally characterized by quality over quantity. Unsaturated fats, particularly monounsaturated fats from sources like olive oil, nuts, and seeds, are emphasized, while saturated fats and trans fats are limited. Omega-3 fatty acids from fish, algae, and walnuts play a central role in dampening chronic inflammation and preserving cognitive and cardiovascular health. In contrast to highly processed oils and fats prevalent in industrialized food systems, the fats consumed by LLIs are typically whole food-based and integrated into meals in traditional, minimally refined forms. Fish consumption, especially in coastal longevity regions such as Ikaria and Okinawa, is another hallmark of these diets. Fish provides not only protein but also long-chain omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA, which are associated with reduced risk of cognitive decline, lower systemic inflammation, and improved lipid profiles. In many cases, fish is consumed 2 to 3 times per week, not daily, reinforcing the theme of moderation rather than excess. Anti-inflammatory dietary patterns are further supported by the inclusion of nuts, berries, dark leafy greens, and herbs. These foods are rich in polyphenol and other bioactive compounds that counter oxidative stress and modulate immune responses. For example, walnuts and almonds have been shown to reduce LDL cholesterol and support vascular function, while compounds in turmeric and rosemary may have neuroprotective effects. The habitual use of such foods may contribute to the preservation of function and resilience observed in the oldest old. Interestingly, many long-lived individuals consume moderate amounts of fermented foods, including yogurt, miso, sauerkraut, and kefir. These support a diverse and balanced gut microbiota, an emerging player in aging biology linked to immune regulation, metabolic health, and inflammation control. A healthy microbiome produces short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, which nourish intestinal cells, reduce gut permeability, and influence systemic health. In centenarian studies, gut microbiota diversity often remains unusually high, suggesting a protective role that may be diet-mediated. Alcohol intake, where present, is typically low to moderate and consumed with meals. Red wine, for example, is a feature of the Mediterranean diet, offering polyphenols such as resveratrol with possible anti-aging effects. However, it is important to note that longevity is not contingent on alcohol, and in several blue zones, e.g., Adventist communities in Loma Linda, California, alcohol is entirely avoided. This again illustrates that while certain patterns are broadly beneficial, no single food or practice is universally required. Importantly, longevity diets are not merely a collection of nutrients, they are embedded in broader cultural and behavioral systems. Meals are often home-cooked, consumed slowly, and shared with others. This social dimension of eating may contribute to lower stress levels, better digestion, and more consistent eating patterns. Moreover, food in these communities is typically grown locally, eaten seasonally, and prepared with minimal industrial processing. These elements not only enhance nutrient quality, but reduce exposure to food additives, preservatives, and endocrine-disrupting chemicals increasingly linked to metabolic and cognitive dysfunction. In the context of modern nutritional science, these traditional patterns align with current findings on dietary interventions that promote health span. Diets such as the Mediterranean diet, the DASH diet, and newer formulations like the longevity diet by Walter Longo echo many of these principles. Common threads include low protein intake in midlife, shifting to moderate protein in older age, an emphasis on whole plant foods, and targeted use of functional foods that modulate inflammation and metabolism. In conclusion, nutrition is both a determinant and a reflection of healthy aging. The dietary habits of centenarians are not based on restriction, exclusion, or optimization by algorithm, but on simple, consistent, and culturally integrated patterns that support cellular health, metabolic stability, and psychological well-being. As the science of longevity continues to evolve, these foundational dietary principles remain not only relevant, but increasingly validated by molecular and epidemiological research. Building a diet to support a 100-year life begins not with exotic superfoods or rigid formulas, but with everyday choices grounded in tradition, moderation, and the synergy of food and life.